It was a fascinating discussion with both of these officers, and they're both D.C. natives. Ron Hampton joined MPD in 1971. Officer Evan Douglas joined 7D here in Southeast just 5 years ago. Despite the decades between them, they are cut from the same cloth. They both love police work. They both love D.C., and they are both willing to speak out against what they call the corrupt police culture.
If we are willing to acknowledge things that we have done wrong, then maybe the community will actually start to, trust us more.
And with that, we sat down for a candid talk about policing. Officer Evan Douglas and retired officer Ronald Hampton.
Yeah, I was retaliated against.
Hampton served on MPD 23 years, always willing to call out another officer, he says, for bad behavior, regardless of the consequence. After his retirement, Hampton continued his activism in the National Black Police Association and then taught D.C. officers sensitivity training at UDC. He says the current climate may be forcing some changes in police practices.
That's going to go deep to disrupt what I call the corrupt culture of the police department.
I reached out to MPD for comment late this afternoon, but have not heard back.
Racial policing, de-escalation.
Officer Evan Douglas is doing his part to change that culture. In partnership with Georgetown Law, Douglas facilitated a workshop with officers and inmates last year.
We truly have to understand that just because somebody breaks the law or commits a crime, that they're not really a bad person.
Both men feel most officers need to be rewired from lessons taught at the academy to protect and truly serve the community with empathy and respect, even in the face of protest.
I'm always going to be a black man first. My uniform can come off, but my skin can't. So I'm always going to understand where the anger and the frustration and the whole, rhetoric about defunding the police comes from. And it's frustrating because, as much as I try to engage and build those bonds and bridges with the community and individuals, if it's just me doing it, then nothing's ever going to change.
And of course, Officer Douglas says he is simply not the only officer willing to stand up and do the right thing, he says, at MPD. I was speaking to the retired officer and I asked him, hey, listen, are you discouraged that after so many decades this fight still continues? And he said, no, I'm not discouraged. I'm hopeful because the impact we made slowly is making change, yet we didn't go far enough to really change the culture. He says it's up to officers like Evan Douglas and others to take that fight and move forward. Now, I did hear back from MPD right before I went on air. They're working on a complete statement for me, but they do say that MPD continues to be a model for police agencies and departments from all over the country. We're live in Southeast. Delia Gonsalves, WUSA 9.
What is clear, Delia, is that changing the culture in the police department has to start both inside and out for sure.